Hi, everyone. Hello. So I want to welcome everyone to another webinar. So we've been having a series of webinars this year. And I would say this is our third webinar we've had for this year. So I want to welcome everyone to how to future-proof your career with Faith Obafemi. She's going to take us through the process of how we can stay relevant in our careers, of how we can be number one, and how we can stay strong, in this highly competitive, tech world. Like we all know, you've been seeing posters, of our of our guest speaker. Our guest speaker, I can just give a quick rundown of our profile. Our guest speaker is a tech lawyer who is very in emerging technologies. In terms of that ranges from blockchain, cryptocurrencies, and so yeah, like I was saying, sorry for that interruption. So yes, she's very knowledgeable. She brings 6 years. She has 6 years of experience, and she's quite knowledgeable in the tech space. So yes, without much further ado, I would like to present, or I would like to introduce Faith. I don't know whether Faith is hearing me. Please, you can go on with your presentation right now. I hand over the podium to you. Thank you. So another thing I would like to point out is that Faith is going to go on with her presentations. And please, if you have questions, please just leave it on the chat box. She's going to answer after her presentation. So please, if you have any question, it is going to be asked after the presentation and not during the presentation, please. Okay.
All right, so I'm going to get started. Thank you, Cora, for the introduction, and thank you for inviting me to share some thoughts on this topic. So we are going to be talking today about future-proofing your career, and essentially we are going to be discussing how to stay relevant in the face of extinction. So our points of discussion today is going to be about, first of all, let's talk about the outcomes of what this discussion is going to be about. I'm hoping it to be a short discussion. I won't be too long. Now let's have an introduction and then a definition of what career means. And then we're going to talk more about how exactly to future-proof your career. I'm going to be having some Bible quotes along as we go on. And I'm going to use the analogy of the new wine, new bottle, the old wine, and new bottle to explain what it means to future-proof your career. Now we're going to talk about some skills that you need to have if you want to future-proof your career. And then we're going to round up with a roadmap to future-proofing your career. As we go on, if you have any questions, you can drop them in the chat, and once I'm done with the presentation, I would address the questions. All right, so what are the outcomes of today's presentation? At the end of this short, hopefully, we should all be able to define career. And secondly, we should be able to identify essential skills that we need to future-proof our careers. Lastly, and not the least, we'll be able to get actionable steps that are guaranteed to bring results if taken. Most people are always getting the next secret, the next big idea, but they never take action. So all of these are predetermined on if you take actions, then you are sure. Like I mentioned, I'm going to sprinkle some biblical quotations around today's presentation. This is just to drive on the point further. So Ecclesiastes 3 verse 1 says, to everything there is a season and a time to every purpose under the heaven. This is the King James Version. Now let's get into her introduction. We have evolved from the hunters and foragers of the agricultural age, and now we also moved to the industrial age where we have inventors and laborers, and now we are in the digital age where we have programmers and software developers. But one thing is common with all these periods in history, and what is common is that it's only those who are able to adapt are the ones who can survive. Different technologies are fast developing. The most prominent ones at the moment are artificial intelligence, blockchain, which I'm involved in, Internet of Things, driverless cars, virtual reality, augmented reality, 3D printing, 4D printing, 5G technology, and so on. But one thing they all have in common is the fear that these new technologies would take away their jobs. That is, that they would become irrelevant or essentially useless. And why this is actually true, many have viewed this from the wrong perspective. Yes, AI will take our jobs, but it will also bring new jobs, like ATMs replace cashiers, right? But it's also created the need for software engineers and technicians. So let's remember that today's talk is going to be a double-edged sword. You can either use it to take a new career path on the road less traveled, or you can use it to future-proof your career in your current path. So it's going to be a win-win situation, whichever option you decide to use it with. All right, let's talk about the definition of career. While we all agree on what it means to be hungry, actually I'm hungry because it's been a while I had my last meal. There are very few things the world agrees on when it comes to definition. And that's usually why when you're in school, you always have different definitions for a particular concept. Now, I've missed the numerous definitions for the word career. Let's consider that found on dictionary.com, which defines career as an occupation or profession, especially one requiring special training, followed as one's life work. So in a nutshell, which I want to adopt as my own personal definition, what you do to earn an income is what you can call a career. That means it could actually be legal or illegal. Please take care of anything illegal. And it also means that it could be more than one. In the 70s, 80s, and 90s, you find people sticking to a particular career for decades. At least I know my parents have been doing one type of career for years now. But these days, many change careers every couple of years. And the core reason is because of the fast-paced development of all facets of life. Now let's move on to the next section. How exactly do you future-proof your career? Matthew 9:17 says, neither do men put new wine into old bottles, else the bottles break, and the wine runneth out, and the bottles perish. But they put new wine into new bottles, and both are preserved. From all I've said earlier in the introduction, we can see that those who are weird are the ones. Now, no one knows what the future of work would look like, but everyone knows it's going to be different. And as we've experienced during the pandemic, we know that most businesses are tilting towards digital. I know most offices now run probably partially remote or even 100% remote. So what's the guarantee that you will still be needed in your current career by 2025? And that's why we're going to talk about the new wine and the new bottle way to pivot your career. So there are new ways one can decide to launch a new career. Like some that have listed already. We have analytics, we have data science, we have digital forensics, we have games development, illustration. And illustration here is not actually drawing with pencil and charcoal and color, watercolor. I'm actually talking about digital illustration. Now we now have interactive technologies like AI, VR, and AR. That's virtual reality and augmented reality. And we have marketing automation, quality assurance, space technologies. In fact, space technologies is my current new area of interest that I'm trying to develop competency in. Then we have telemedicine, which is probably growing wide now, especially because of the pandemic. People now would prefer to consult their doctors online rather than going to an hospital. Well, for some parts of it and not for everything. Now we have transcription and transcribing, UI and UX designer. And last but not least, we have voice search marketing and voice search transition. You know, Siri and other voice used to work on your phone. Like most times you can start a Google search just using your voice. I know I have the feature on my phone. So that means very soon in future, people will need to optimize their online content for voice search. So that is going to be able to pick out what people are saying when using voice search. So they are going to be needing experts or people with competence in areas of voice search marketing and voice search optimization. This list is not exhaustive. I just picked out some that were interesting to me. There are still lots of others out there. Okay, now I want to talk about how do I new bottle. What I essentially mean in this aspect is where you try to future-proof your current career by looking at where the future activities are going to be happening. The point of today's presentation is to open your mind to exploring future developments in your current career. So you need to find time to take stock of where the ship of development is going and how you can board it. For instance, if you're an accountant, you might want to explore fintech, financial technology, and virtual currencies. And my neighbor is even currently studying mass communications, and I once told her she should begin exploring AR and VR because very soon they would be used in full scale by media establishments. I once watched a video where a news media used AR to visualize and demonstrate the flood they were covering. They were covering the news of the flood in their area. So they used AR and VR to demonstrate how high the flood was. And I remember watching the video where the lady presenter showed how the flood was from her knees to even her chest and even when it covered her. You can see that such demonstration would make it more interactive. People will get to actually understand what exactly is happening. If I tell you there is flood somewhere, you may not know how the extent of the flood or how deep the water has gone. We have demonstration want to see how exactly the flood was happening. So I hope you are able to get my point. And also we have doctors and pharmacists and nurses who would want to explore telemedicine and medtech. So find an emerging area. They are usually less crowded. And then you can explore how this emerging area, can be applied in your current field. While you don't have to begin learning to program or start getting headaches over technical details, it's important that you have a firm grasp of basics and how the new will impact your industry. And there are some new ways you can actually begin exploring, which I want to explain further now. The first one is 3D and 4D printing. Manufacturing technologies using specialized computerized printers. 3D printing objects are fixed and cannot be changed after printing, while 4D printing objects can change their form after printing. Another emerging area you can explore in your industry is artificial intelligence. This is intelligence displayed by computers because they have been programmed to think like natural intelligence. There's actually a robot named Sophia. I guess most of you must have heard of her, which travels around the world before COVID. And she gets interviewed left and right. In fact, the Saudi Arabia government bestowed her with a citizenship. She makes use of AI. Then in 2020, Microsoft announced some vacancies for its mixed reality and AI engineering office, which was opened recently in Lagos. Now, the job requirements did not include a degree. That means all they just wanted was certificate. So long as you know what you're doing, you would likely get hired. Augmented reality. This is an interactive technology that uses computer-generated perceptual information like visual, auditory, and all of that to augment real-world objects, just like the media news example I mentioned some minutes ago. So AR has the possibilities of use in arts industry, in real estate, in gaming, and several other industries. Even in fashion, you can use AI. I know last year, an African American was able to conduct the first virtual fashion show using AI, augmented reality, and AI actually. So, and she was able to sell out most of her stock just using this virtual fashion show. Okay, and the next one, blockchain, which is my area. And we're not going to turn this into a blockchain lecture. So I'm just going to explain. Blockchain is a digital ledger replicated on different computers and not controlled by one single entity. Let me use an analogy because using analogies is a more easy way to explain blockchain. If you have used Google Docs before, if you have used Google Docs record, you would realize that you can invite people to a folder or a file or a document that you have on your Google Drive. And once you do that, everyone will have duplicates of all that is in the folder also on their own computer. Like, when I changed my laptop, all I needed to do was download Chrome, sign into Chrome, and immediately I had access to all my files and folders on my Google Drive. So even if I go to another device, the same thing would happen. So that's almost how blockchain works. Anyone can have access to those records because the record is duplicated on different computers. Those computers are those participating in the blockchain network, and we call them nodes. So it can be used for virtually anything, but the most popular use is cryptocurrency like Bitcoin, Ether, Litecoin, Ripple, and the different types of cryptocurrencies that exist. Blockchain, for instance, can be used to digitize land records. Just like in your Google Drive, you can upload a file, you can upload a slides, you can upload a PDF document, you can upload images, you can upload videos, you can upload images, you can upload anything. The same thing with blockchain. You can upload, you can record value or transaction on the blockchain. You can also record information. In this instance, it will be information about land registry, who owns a particular land, and when it gets transferred, when it was transferred, how much it was transferred for, and all parties involved. So that's one use case for blockchain technology. And I know Dubai is currently working towards a government run solely on smart contracts. Okay, the next one I think we're going to talk about is drones. You can think of drones as flying robots. If you're a photographer or a videographer, it's something you should definitely cut. Computers learn on their own. It can be used literally anywhere from healthcare to construction and even education. Now, last but not least is virtual reality. This is AI taken to another level. One gets completely immersed in a new world stimulated through technology and complete with audio and visual inputs to create a complete virtual reality. So imagine watching a movie and being able to walk around the house of the actors or follow them around as the movie plays out. VR can make that possible. The reason is it has possibilities in cinematography and games and theaters and all of that. Those are possible ways one can use VR. So I think we are going to pause here because we seem to have a short time remaining, and I think the call will probably cut. So I think we should stop and start again so that we can have more time for the remaining section. Sorry for the breaking transmission, and I'm happy to be back. So like I've said, if you have any question as we are going on with the presentation, please drop your questions in the chat box. Okay, now we are going to talk about must-have skills to future-proof your career. Now from your screen, you can see I have some Bible quotes from Proverbs 24:3 and Proverbs 4:7. And each of them are essentially talking about the fact that one needs wisdom if one needs to be successful. And in this career discussion, I would say one needs some certain skills if one would need to future-proof their career. Whether you are in a technical or non-technical career, or you are working from home or the office, you definitely need some skills to help you stay future-proof. Remember, where there is a will, there is always a way. So give no place to excuses. I just learned of a lady making money from home teaching people online. Yeah, she was teaching people who want to learn online. So let's talk about each of these skills that are needed. The first one is to be a T-shaped professional. Now, what does it mean to be a T-shaped professional? It means developing broad competencies in several areas while having deep competence in one or a few areas. From that definition, you can see that developing broad competencies would be like an horizontal stroke, and then developing deep competency would be a vertical stroke, and that would create a T shape. So becoming a T-shaped professional means you should have broad competencies and then deep competencies in one area. This is good for adaptability as you strive to future-proof your career. For instance, I am into the general tech field for my law practice. Now you can call that broad competency. But I also have deep competencies in emerging technologies. Even in emerging technologies, I have niched down to blockchain, smart contracts, and lately I'm trying to develop competency in space technologies. Number two skill is to be tech savvy. You don't need to know how to reboot phones. You don't need to know how to reroute a computer. All those boring technical details. However, it is important that you at least know how they work and can help you with your daily tasks. This might sound harsh, but if you are perhaps in your final year or your youth couple or in your 20s and you don't know how to use word processors like Microsoft Word and Google Docs, then I shake my head. And most of these things are actually not hard to learn. You just need to have an open mind and be ready to grow. Number three skill that you're going to need is an infinite desire to learn always. The digital age is dynamic. It was not long ago that all a phone could do was send and receive text messages and phone calls. And I still remember the very first phone I got in my life when I resumed 100 level in university. In fact, that phone, if you want to type a word, you have to scroll up and down looking for the letters and all of that. All they could do was for you to receive calls and all they could do was for you to receive calls and send text messages and all of that. You couldn't do much more than that. But now, some people literally cannot live without their phones. Smartphones are used for virtually everything, from devotions to planner to even weight loss. So you need to be a lifelong learner if you desire to be future-proof. Because once you stop learning, you simply lose relevance in no time. And you need to also remember that the learning road could be lonesome. Thus, it's important to cultivate and independent learning spirit. Number 4, communication and networking. Okay, to stay future-proof, you need to go digital, even in your communication. One special feature of this is that your networking game goes global. You are no longer limited to just Vesta, Lagos, Nigeria, or even Africa. You should also think global in your communication and networking, because from your digital devices, you can build valuable relationships with people on the other side of the planet. To do this, you need to know how to communicate in a proper way so others can understand the message you are trying to pass across. This is where little things like being polite, writing out in full, and going straight to the point becomes important. Perhaps you've gotten some messages from people who just message you and say hello, you reply hi. Next thing they go, good morning, you reply good morning. For goodness sake, please go straight to the point. Once you are messaging someone for the very first time, go straight to the point why you are messaging them. Be polite and write out in full. So if you're still communicating with people online in abbreviations like HW for her, K for okay, thanks. You need to stop doing that. It is very unprofessional. Of course, you can do that for close friends and families, but when you're contacting strangers or making contacts for the first time, ensure you write out the full, you are polite, and you go straight to the point. Now, the next one is critical and creative thinking. Now, the digital economy that we have today, or the current state of things today, were made possible thanks to people solving the world's problem using critical and creative thinking. These problem-solving skills are very essential if anyone desires to stay future-proof. So when you encounter a challenge, you should be motivated to brainstorm answers to those questions about the challenge. The next skill you need to develop is staying updated. If you are not informed, your career would be deformed. Don't worry, this is not an aspire to aspire. So you need to ensure that you are plugged to current news and resources in your industry. I know there are people from various industries on this call, not just lawyers. So that is why I prepared this to be general. And most of this you can get from free blogs, LinkedIn groups, and even forums. Now the last but not the least is to stay human. Now this probably sounds counterintuitive. Isn't everyone trying to build the next best one? However, the one constant that will not change is that artificial intelligence will never be able to replace human intelligence, most especially in the area of emotional intelligence, leadership, problem solving, and all sorts of areas that need human intelligence. Lastly, stay positive. So you have decided to future-proof your career. But you have to remember that no matter how careful you are with taking steps to future-proof your career, you would likely meet disappointments and setbacks. But does that mean you should give up? No. Simply stay positive and then re-strategizing when necessary is what you should do. Now we are almost getting to the end of this talk. And the last thing we are going to talk about is a roadmap to future-proofing your career. So we have seen some ways in which you can stay future-proof. You need to look at an emerging area in your industry and then position yourself properly. Proverbs 22:29 says, "Seest thou a man diligent in his business? He shall stand before kings, he shall not stand before men." Now, I would like to mention here that before you even start taking any action, please specialize. Before you even start taking any action, please specialize. Because when you specialize, you can conserve and concentrate your resources. Being a jack of all trades will simply leave you frustrated and possibly broke. So pick one area where you want people to know you from. Just one area where you want people to know you from. So whether you are taking a new path or seeking to future-proof your current path, there are some steps you can take. You can see this as a roadmap that you can follow. And a good place to start is to learn. I can't stress this enough. You have to learn before you can learn. So you need to learn. You can do this by taking online courses in your areas of interest. There are free and not so expensive ones available. And if you find an online course, you can just Google for articles and spend some time on Google reading up those articles. And then if you find a course maybe you cannot afford, what you can do is to look at the course outline and then research those topics listed in the outline yourself. I know there are lots of well-respected software developers in Nigeria who are self-taught. The second step in the roadmap is to build an online presence where you share with others what you are learning. Doing this will help you to inevitably gradually build a reputation as a thought leader in your area of interest. My top places to build an online presence in order of priority are LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and WhatsApp. Now, this could change depending on your target audience. For example, a video editor would want to have a strong presence on Instagram. A lawyer who is into e-commerce would definitely want to have a strong presence on Instagram. So depending on your target audience, you should go where your target audience spend most of their time and pitch your things there. In fact, I once went on a fully sponsored trip to Ghana where I was even paid to speak at an event. I had asked the organizer, so how did you get to find me? And they simply said they Googled for blockchain lawyers in Africa and my name came up, and that was why they contacted me. Okay, so let's talk about the third step in the roadmap is to attend and speak at events. Both events that are solely devoted to your area of interest and even general events. I once went for a general tech event in Nairobi, and even the panel I was asked to speak on was to talk about cybersecurity. By the end of the day, someone asked the question about cybersecurity and cryptocurrency. So that was an opportunity for me to talk more about my area of interest. So the events you want to speak at do not necessarily have to be solely devoted to only your area of interest. They could be general, and then you can find a way to bring an angle from the area of interest into your presentation or into the event or panel that you get asked to speak on. Now, these days, most events are now online. So you should remember to network with others and ask questions where you need clarifications. Don't just pile up the business cards to collect. Well, unless you're planning to build a house of cards. So make it a duty to follow up those who you have collected their cards. You can just send the simple, it was great meeting you at XYZ conference and get the discussion going from there. To find events to speak at, you can use Eventbrite and Meetups. They both have apps, and you can even access them on your browser. They're easy to use, and you can filter events using relevant keywords or even using your location. Now, here's the thing. If you are just starting out to speak at events, you should find events that interest you, and then you can approach the organizers for an opportunity. I think lawyers should take this very serious. This is because usually most events do not have a topic that relates to law. Most are usually just relating to business, how to make more money, how to get more clients and all of that. So why don't you approach the organizers and say, for example, you have something relating to law to talk to them about? Let's say, for example, you see an event that wants to teach people maybe how to build an e-commerce site and then how to automate all their e-commerce sales and all of that. You see that most of the topics are going to be about things like how to get more customers to buy on your e-commerce store, how to get out selling products and all of that. If you're an e-commerce lawyer, then you can approach them and say you want to talk on maybe a topic like how to protect your e-commerce business legally. In this way, you can tell them that, oh, you need things like refund policy on your website. You need things like terms and services on your website. So that's going to be an opportunity for you because most of the time they do not have such topics on the agenda. So that's an opportunity for you to tell them you would like to speak. And the good thing about this is the more events you speak at, the more invitations you get, and then with time, you can charge for speaking. Number 4, you should find an opportunity to apply all you have learned, even if it means pro bono. When I first ventured into blockchain as my law practice area, law firms in Nigeria didn't even know what blockchain was. Plus, let's not even begin talking about the system where many have paid with experience on LinkedIn for US-based lawyers involved in blockchain. I then narrowed my search to about 5 or so and messaged them. I requested to be a virtual intern and help them with research. I actually did not ask for pay when I messaged them, but some of them replied. Some said they wasn't interested because it did not know me. Two said they had no vacancy, and then two ended up hiring me. And in the end, I got two remote digital jobs. I was paid by the hour, and I was able to learn on the job. It later paved the way for my subsequent hires as a blockchain lawyer. So you should find an opportunity to apply all you have been learning if you decide to go into a new area. Now, the fifth way or the fifth step in this roadmap to future-proof your career is to keep up to date by staying on top of the latest happenings. One way to do this is by subscribing to Google Alerts. Just go to google.com/alerts or just Google Alerts. You'll find the link. So for instance, I am subscribed to keywords like blockchain law, smart contracts, and so on, including my name. Yeah, so that I can get a notification when I'm mentioned in an article online. So you get the drift. Subscribe to keywords that interest you. Another way is by subscribing to quality newsletters. You should try out a few, and then you can even unsubscribe if you think you're not getting anything valuable from them, and then you hold on to the ones that value. So those are the 5 steps that you can take on your roadmap to future proofing your career. So I'm going to run this up by quoting Philippians 4:8-9. Finally, brethren, whatsoever things are true, whatsoever things are honest, whatsoever things are just, whatsoever things are pure, whatsoever things are lovely, whatsoever things are of good report, if there be any virtue, and if there be any praise, think on these things. Those things which ye have both learned and received and heard and seen in me, do, and the God of peace shall be with you. The reason why I am quoting this verse is because most of the time when people contact me telling me that, their career is stagnant, they are not progressing as much as they want or as much as they desire, I realize that their main problem is because they are not taking any action. They have attended courses, they have bought books, they have done consultations and even one-on-one consultations with coaches and all of that. But they only take in all of these information and zero action. So how exactly do you want things to change if you take no action? So I am hoping that you are not going to be such a person who keeps learning and doing nothing. I hope that you at least take, even if a little step, to take or do even if one thing from all you have learned today. Thank you very much for your attention. Thank you also for the opportunity to be able to make this presentation. I'm happy now to take questions.
Okay, hi Faith. Thank you so much for the lovely and very insightful presentation. I know you mentioned that you want people to ask questions in the chat box. So what I can do is I'll just tell people to ask their questions there. But I really, really enjoyed the presentation. Thank you, thank you. Thank you so much for agreeing to be with us and, share from your wealth of knowledge. Now we have Taiwo, who is raising up his hand. So I would just give Taiwo the floor so that he can ask his question. Thank you.
Hello, good afternoon. I I I didn't meet up with the presentation at the beginning of the presentation, so I am wondering if you can help with a guideline for lawyers that are intending on diversifying into blockchain law. I don't know whether you can help, or you can also be a mentor, as it were. I don't know if you can give us a guide, and personally for me, personal guide and be a mentor. So I'm waiting your feedback on that.
Okay, so from what Kawa said, the question is guidelines to divert into blockchain. I wouldn't use the word divert. Maybe perhaps you mean guidelines to beginning a career in blockchain. It's the same guidelines I have mentioned recently can be applied to anything, to any area, because those are actually the exact steps I myself took to get to specializing in blockchain. You first of all need to learn about it, and as you're learning, you can now be sharing with people the things you are learning. That way, people will get to realize that, oh, this person is involved in this area. You can do this by sharing articles, posts, Twitter, tweet threads, mentorship. I have a different idea about mentorship. The idea is that I generally don't believe in approaching strangers and asking for mentorship. I actually believe in having an informal kind of mentorship where you can simply approach me. For instance, let's say we're talking about blockchain law. You can send me a message saying, oh, I want to publish this article. Please could you help me review? Then I can make some comments about what you have posted, and we can have conversations about it. And as you keep engaging with each other, maybe you can call that mentorship. But I don't do official mentorships. But okay, I do have a course that I did for African Blockchain Institute, a blockchain law course. So if you're interested, you can check them on LinkedIn and let them know that you're interested in the course. Okay, have I answered all the questions? Okay, I can see another question here. As a lawyer, how can I get into tech? Being finding it difficult to get tech jobs. I think this is where gaining clarity comes in. And that was why I was stressing specializing. Pick a particular path. Don't try to do many things at once. Pick a particular path. And then once you have done that, it's going to be easier to get approached. And even though I'm not looking for a full-time job, keep getting messages from HR people saying they want to hire me. And I'm sure it's probably because when they were looking for candidates, my name probably popped up. So pick a particular area. Tech is broad. Remember we talked about being a T-shaped professional. Tech is broad, but pick a deep competence also. Once you do that, it's going to be easier for you to get a job. Oh, my journey to tech. And my journey is a very long one. Okay, let me start from when I got caught to bar. I got caught to bar 2014, and like every other person, I was looking to get hired by top law firms. In fact, lately I was looking for my national ID card, and then I came across a notebook that I had named Job Hunts when I was looking for a job in 2014. I had sent over 100 applications. I don't even know how I said it. And I think it was only one or two who replied, and I went for interview, but never heard from them again. But anyway, things paused for me in life because exactly 2 weeks after cutting down, I had an accident and broke my leg. So for 2 years, I was at home doing nothing, cooperating from the fracture surgery. So I probably even forgot I was even a lawyer or anything like that. So after the 2 years, I think late 2016, then I was living with my parents, broke without any money. And if I needed money or even credit, I had to ask my younger brother. So one day I woke up and was like, hey, you need to do something about the situation. I cannot continue like this. So I needed a way to make money. And I knew I couldn't really start working because then I just dropped crutches, so I still couldn't walk well. So I needed a way to make money. So the alternative option was for me to get involved in online work or get an online job and stuff. So I had asked some of my friends that I was looking for an online job, if they are aware of anyone, a legitimate one, they should let me know, not Yahoo Yahoo. So one of them then told me that, oh, he has a friend who does online work. He does not know exactly what he does, but he would like to connect me. I said, okay, and he connected me. So that one then asked me if I knew how to write. And I was like, well, I wrote my final year paper, so I think I should be able to write. So from there, I got into freelance writing. Then one day, one of my clients who has a law firm asked me to write about blockchain as well. So that was how I got kind of involved in blockchain. So but from 2016 to 2017, all I was doing was writing about blockchain. I wasn't into law practice. So by 2018, it then occurred to me that I could make this my law practice area and not just writing about it. I was fortunate that most things I knew about actually to learn about it because I was paid to write about it. So I then decided to make it my law practice area, and that is how I ended up. Okay. Then I also got deep into it by also learning how to program smart contracts. Though I'm not that perfect in it, but I can understand Solidity code to an extent. So that is how I got involved. I can say another question here. Is there a realistic market for blockchain law in Nigeria and Africa at large, putting into consideration government policies and levels of literacy? Okay, I think I should first of all mention here that, yeah, 1 minute actually. Blockchain is not synonymous to cryptocurrency. Most people are always assuming they mean the same thing. They are different. Blockchain is the technology that powers cryptocurrency. I like using analogies for my explanation, so I'm going to use the electricity and bulb analogy. You can liken blockchain to electricity and cryptocurrency to bulbs. As you all know that electricity can power even bulbs, fans, TV, many other things. So also blockchain can be used for other things and not just cryptocurrency. So if we are talking about the realistic market, I want to tell you that the market is realistic. If you've been reading the news about the millions of we are doing, that's a lot of money. And I think that's actually the reason why the government is trying to curb all these activities, because the transactions are not going through them. So they are literally missing profits. The transaction through the exchanges themselves. If I want to buy Bitcoin now, all I need to do is send Naira to the exchange and they give me Bitcoin. But now, CBN has prohibited that from happening, so it can no longer happen. So I think our time is almost up. Cover says we need to log in. Okay, we'll log out and come back in and answer